KGO 810, live from the Conklin Brothers studio. Conklin Brothers floor covering in San Jose, Fremont, and San Mateo.
Matt Ray sitting in KGO Radio 810, taking your calls at 415-808-0810. 808810 is the number.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, fine.
This is Dr. Richard Lee, right?
Correct.
Hi,
That's
Dr.
me.
Richard Lee. This is Matt.
Good to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us here on KGO Radio 810. Let's talk about these consumer gene tests. They face uncertain future here. Consumers who want to find out about their genetic health risks without going to the doctor and paying a hefty price may have to wait because this startup company here in the Bay Area, 23andMe, the government cracked down on these guys, the FDA. They haven't really approved these things. So 23andMe says it's going to start selling these things overseas in a European market. What do you make of these tests, Dr. Lee, and what's the holdup here with the FDA?
As I understand it, the problem with 23andMe is that it included some very specific tests for high risk for breast cancer. These are tests called the BRCA1 and 2 gene mutations. And these cancers can have a very high probability in a certain population of women, mainly Northern European Jewish women. The problem is those tests are being offered to people without any professional counseling on the consequences of those tests. Some people may overreact and think, oh my, I'm going to get breast cancer, go out and get a mastectomy and pretend she's Angelina Jolie. Or others may not understand that if they have the risk, so do their children and possibly their parents. And they're putting their whole family into a bind as far as genetic information, which they may not know fully what to do or what the total risks are. So that was one problem. And secondly, there were other claims or other results on 23andMe that could have significant consequences that people, if they don't fully understand, aren't guided through the information, may either panic or make the wrong decision, or in many cases not even know what to do and not do anything when in fact there are things they can do.
We're speaking with Dr. Richard Lee, the co-founder of GeneSolve here in the Bay Area. Dr. Lee, talk to us about these tests. What are these tests that they're trying to sell?
Okay, they're basically selling what's called a genotype. It is not your entire genome or all of your genetic information. They look at maybe 500,000 to 750,000 sections on the chromosome that have been shown to be linked with certain character traits or disease states or whatnot. And you send out a little spit, you wait anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, and then you supposedly get a result that comes back that says, based on what we know of people like you, these are the things that you may have as far as conditions or may get as far as conditions. But again, it's very sophisticated information, and even though it's tried to be brought down to the level of the average consumer, there's a lot more there that people may not understand, and that's a lot of the problem with them. They're too complex, I think, to just look at alone and try and figure out what they mean.
I would assume you order these, you interpret them for patients. What what do you tell them? How, I don't want to say dumb it down, but that's a term I use. Not trying to put anybody down, but put it into terms that we can understand. What reaction do you get from the patients, and how do you interpret it for them?
Well, I don't just take the genomic test because to me it's like looking at the blueprint of your house. That doesn't tell you how well the house was built or how well the house has been maintained. So whenever I interpret a genomic test for a patient, I'm also including their history, their health habits, and the best and most appropriate lab results, and we combine all of it. So I can tell them, well, you have this incredibly healthy cholesterol, yet your genetic tests show that you have a slightly greater than average risk of heart disease. Maybe we need to modify your diet anyway, or maybe we don't. Someone may have not so good cholesterol, but incredibly good genes as far as preventing heart disease. So you have to combine that information. Also, you ask the guy, well, what do you eat? And he says, well, I butter my cheese and I eat popcorn every day. That's someone who you may want to change their health habits based on their genetic risk. So without any other information, the genomic test simply says what might happen, but it won't tell you what has happened or what will happen. And that's where you need to combine it with knowing the patient, knowing what they do, what their family risks were, and more importantly, what's under the hood. What's their height, what's their weight, what do their lab data show? When you pull that all together, you can really get some accuracy or better predictive value.
Are we even close to having these things approved by the FDA? I mean, in your opinion, how long should these hit the market at all?
Well, I think for the consumer market, it's still a ways away. The problem, again, is what information you provide. You can't, as a non-physician or as a non-healthcare professional, provide a diagnosis, at least in California. You could give someone information. You can still order 23andMe and get information on your ancestry, but they'll give you no health information. They've been shut down from the FDA from doing that. So in terms of consumer DNA tests, I think there has to be a lot better explaining capability for the layperson. And really, again, if you don't combine it with lab information and how the patient looks and how their family fared, it's not going to be accurate anyway. It's kind of a waste of money.
Are they? So, what do you think the motive for 23andMe is to get this out there so quickly and what sounds like hastily? I mean, is this? I mean, will this? Are they hoping to use some of this genetic information to run studies in search of medical breakthroughs? I mean, is there more money involved in that?
There may be. It depends on how they use information. I've not submitted a 23andMe myself, so I don't know what disclaimers I've signed or would have to sign to get the test. It was co-founded by the wife of Sergey Brin at Google, and Google is an incredible repository of any and all information, and I'm sure, although the data may be blinded, not knowing who you are, they're going to have a huge database of genomic information that may actually help. Drug companies may want to know how many people in the future are going to have this risk of this disease or that disease. We can figure out how to market or develop medications. That may be a useful application, but at the same time, there's always a dark side to things. Who else is going to use that information and to what means?
Yeah. Dr. Richard Lee is our guest. The website is gene-solve.com. Dr. Lee, we appreciate your time. You're the co-founder of GeneSolve. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thanks for talking to me.
415-808-0810 is the number, 808810. What do you make of these genetic tests? Should personal DNA testing become like home pregnancy tests? Some companies claim using an at-home spit kit, consumers can discover their genetic risk for disorders like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and breast cancer, but critics say the direct-to-consumer genetic tests exaggerate their predictive powers and may mislead consumers. So these DNA tests, without doctors' involvement, what do you think? Is it pseudoscience? 415-808-0810 is the number, 808810. You heard from Dr. Lee, a physician-led body chemistry company that uses DNA data to optimize the patient's health right here in the Bay Area, GeneSolve. They say no. They say, look, these tests are hard to read. They can lead somebody to have a procedure that they probably don't need. I guess I didn't get to the question I should have asked, how is that? If I use one of these tests, though, and I go into a doctor and I say I need this procedure, the doctor has now you don't want to put all your faith in doctors, but the doctor usually will say, no, you really don't. Let's run some of our own tests. 415-808-0810 is the number, 808810. This comes out of 23andMe, that home genetics startup, forging ahead with plans to sell the test kit, not just in the U.S., the Google-backed firm moving to English-speaking markets abroad. This after the Food and Drug Administration said, they had to. They stopped selling the $99 DNA test kit. It just sounds, I don't know. It just sounds bizarre. Hey, could you run up to the 7-Eleven and get me a DNA test kit? Run up to the corner. I need to take a DNA test. So it hasn't obtained the marketing authorization from the FDA. And in a warning letter, the FDA said it feared the false positive or false negative results from 23andMe's genetic test could prompt patients to take, actions like unnecessary surgery. Look, you don't need this. So 23andMe has formed a team internally to explore the path to approval overseas. That's according to Reuters, according to a person with knowledge of the company. They're in the process of evaluating international opportunities, according to a spokesperson. While it awaits approval, which could take years, 23andMe is trying to offer partial or full genetic testing services in one or more countries outside of the U.S. by the end of the year. Canada, Australia, UK. How are these countries going to jump on this? What if it does what the FDA says? Then 23andMe is, they're putting a lot of confidence, a lot of faith in this, in my opinion, to say, well, we're not going to be able to do it in the U.S. Let's go do it somewhere else. Well, what if people start having these unnecessary surgeries? 415-808-0810 is the number, 808810. This test analyzes probabilities that a person could come down with a certain disease or condition, such as diabetes. Look, don't get me wrong. These are helpful. But I don't think these should be as common as a pregnancy test. Could you run up to the corner, grab a pregnancy test, and while you're at it, honey, get me a DNA test? So, 23andMe, they're looking for a faster route right now to approval. Do you think it's smart to consider it? 415-808-0810 is the number. You can chime in on that. I don't think it's smart to consider that. I mean, obviously they're looking for a quicker route, but I don't think the route, I don't think can you have like a test group? I don't think going to another country and having the possibility of this failing like the FDA says it could, I don't think that's going to look good on your record. I don't think that's going to look good on your record. Let's go to the caller. How are you today?
I'm doing just fine.
What's your name, sir?
Stu.
Stu.
I took the 23andMe, and I found it to be quite helpful.
Really?
Yes, I sure did.
Can you turn your radio down in the background?
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, turn the radio.
Yeah, thanks, Stu.
Yeah. I took the test, and I found it to be helpful. I didn't take it real seriously. I mean, but some of the stuff was unreal. They knew the color of my eyes. They said I had a tendency to get like restless leg syndrome, which my mother had a lot of problems with. And I went through all these different medical things and kind of evaluated them. And I felt that, I didn't go running to the doctor with anything, but for the price and for what I got, and of course the other thing they give you, which is quite interesting, is your heritage, like, so much Northern European, so much Indian, different things. And I was really impressed with it. I mean, for the $100 or whatever it was.
So what prompted you to take it, Stu?
Well, one reason that prompted me to take it is when I was younger, my father had left, and I knew my grandparents, but there was a couple things where somebody had said that my grandmother on my father's side was part Indian, and it's always kind of bothered me. So I thought, this is a heck of a American Indian is what I mean, and this is a heck of a way. Maybe I can find out some stuff, and it was amazing the stuff they came up with.
Wow!
They give you like a brown pie chart and shows how much, say, English and Northern European and other, and I found it to really be a good for the price. It was great. It takes a while. It takes about 6 or 7 weeks. Mine came in just before they closed. I got my results just before the government closed them down.
Wow. Hey, Stu, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. 808810 is the number. Let's go to Kathy, standing by in Richmond. Kathy, how are you?
Hi. I just wanted to say that I did 23andMe when you could still get all the information. I thought it was great. There's so much data there. They link to all the studies and so on. This thing with the FDA worrying that people might get unnecessary surgery is ridiculous. The only thing
but I have to counter with, people self-diagnose themselves all the time. I talk to doctors, I looked at my symptoms online. Do I have cancer? No, you have a cold. I mean,
right, but
that's
the
extreme.
Doctor really can operate based
well,
on
that was my question
ridiculous.
too, though. Yeah, that was my question too.
I think it's physicians who, want to be in control of this. And, I think the only thing really that would even prompt surgery would be the breast cancer gene, like Angelina Jolie had, and so on. And certainly they would be doing lots more testing than your 23andMe before they would start doing that kind of surgery. And I think it's fantastic. And
if you don't mind me asking, what prompted you to take it?
Well, there's a lot of Alzheimer's in my family, and I was particularly interested in the APOE4 gene, which is linked with an increased risk of Alzheimer's, and I wanted to know if I had it, and I don't, and which was nice to hear, but before I could even get that result, I had to click on a disclaimer, really understand the risks of knowing it and so on, and but there's so much information. All of it was very well vetted and sourced as much as any physician could do, and I think the FDA thing is ridiculous.
Kathy, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. We'll take your calls coming out of the break here at 415-808-0810. 808810 is the number. Matt Ray sitting in, KGO Radio 810. Don't forget, you can take KGO on the go everywhere now with our new KGO mobile app. Just head on over to the website, kgoradio.com, or download it from your app store. KGO News, traffic, and weather.